Hello everyone and a very warm welcome to another video tutorial series. This time we are going to focus on testing our Canvas app. My name is Clavin and I'm a Microsoft Business Applications MVP. In this particular tutorial, we'll look at the Test Studio. However, in the next tutorial, the tutorial following this one, we will look at Test Engine. If you're familiar with the Test Studio, feel free to go ahead and skip this tutorial and directly get into the Test Engine. However, if you're new or want to get familiar with Test Studio, please feel free to follow along. That being said, as I told you, this is the part 1 of the tutorial series. So firstly, what is Test Studio and why automated testing? We all know that testing is a crucial part in software development lifecycle. It is used to detect issues, problems. It also helps in enhancing the reliability, fix the problems before the end app has been released. Manual testing might suffice for most of the smaller apps, but as the complexity grows, it's more strategic to have automated testing in place. For mission critical apps, these minor problems might also be of great impact. Yes, manual testing has another problem. As humans, we might miss a particular test case. However, as a machine, we can use the same test case even in the regression. Finally, test automation streamlines testing, reduces the time, and identifies the crucial issues before the release. And to get automation testing in place, Microsoft has introduced Test Studio. Before we get further, let's quickly open an app and look at our Test Studio. So here, my friends, you have an app. The app is a very simple app. I need to type in my username and my email and submit it. It is submitted to a data source, and most of the times people actually submit the right data. For example, I'll type in Dhavin Fernandez and then I'll say Dhavin@xyz.com, right? Most of the times I put in the people don't create errors and it finally navigates to the thank you screen. Perfect, right? However, at times, people might have typos. For example, instead of com, they might put om, right? But still, the data has been submitted. Now, all of you developers or Power Apps developers out there might tell me, Clavin, we can handle this in the front end. And yes, you should handle it in the front end. But what if a developer is new and he is not focusing mainly on error handling? This might go into production, and when it goes into production, this might be a big problem because the data is patched into the data source, which is wrong information. Let's say it's sending incorrect emails, the emails are bouncing, etc., etc. So that being said, wouldn't it be nice to have a solution in place that can test this before being deployed to production or released to the end users? In this case, Test Studio comes to our rescue. Here on my screen, I click on the Advanced Tools and I find Tests. It tells me that it can write the test and validate your app if it's working as expected. So I'll click on Open Test. Perfect. So the Test Studio has opened and here you see that already I have a test case written. But let's ignore that, right? And let's look at the UI out here. First things first, you can create a new test case. A test case usually comes under the test suite. You can give the test case a meaningful name such as assert email. And I'll give the suite a name as well. And then I can give it a description. Now here, let's go back into the slides and let's understand the basics of creating a test case. So let's understand the basic terminologies of the function. I can say that there are 4 main functions that you will use over and over again. One is the select. It is used to stimulate the button clicks. Second is set property. It is used to simulate the interaction with text input or labels, etc. You can go, for example, set a text to a label or set a text to a text input. Then trace, it is basically debugging functions. And finally, assert, what is the expected result versus the actual result. So this is basically used for error handling. However, before we proceed, it is important to note, and you already saw that, right? When the test is published, it is stored within the app. You have seen that there was a test in my app already. What does that mean? It means that the test will be stored in your app package, and if you move the app to a different environment, the test definition will still be included. Right? So all the test suites and test cases that you have created can be migrated with the app. For example, from test to the production or from QA to production. So let's go back again into the slides and let's try to go ahead and write this. However, Microsoft has made our life easy. We don't need to write it. We can record it. Recorder helps you to interact with your app and automatically write test cases. For example, I can just click here. It goes ahead and creates a select, right? A select, and I can type in Clavin. And here I can type in fernandez@xyz.com, and then I can click on the button. At this point, I can click on done. Right, so my test case has been created. Here you see that I actually used a nice naming conventions for my controls, and that is the reason why you see that I have text input underscore email and text input underscore name. However, the labels are not named properly. I would highly recommend you go ahead and label all of your controls properly because it gives you more context of it. So the steps are recorded and then it tells you which screen it has been recorded on, and finally it tells you, okay, what is the action. So at this point, I can just click on play and publish it. Perfect. So here you see, my friends, that the test has automatically started. It started with an on test case start. We'll talk about it in greater details. Then it went to a main screen and then it went ahead and completed the test case. However, this test case is good. We can see that the property has set correctly. But what if the property has set wrongly? Let's say that the person forgets the @ symbol. In this case, this should have an assertion and it should fail, right? So at this point, we can create a step known as assert. So this is something that you need to create manually. The recorder will not do it for you. So I will just do that and I'll move it below the set email, right? And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to the internet and search for a way to go ahead and assert it or go ahead and error handle it. So here you see that I went to Google, typed in, I went to the community. Community is the best place to find answers, and I see that is text match can be used to go ahead and assert or go ahead and error handle these type of. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back into my test studio. I'm going to type in assert. And here, my friends, I'm going to go ahead and paste the expression that I had copied from the community. Now, it's good I copied it, but my app does not have data card value 3. Instead, I have got text input value dot text. So let's try this. Let me add this out here. And then this is good. So first, the assert needs an expression, and I need to give it a condition saying that if the expression is true, go ahead and say pass. So this is my assert, right? This is my assert, and I can just go ahead and publish it again. Now again, every time you make a change to a test suite or a test case, you need to republish it. So it creates versions, okay? I hate this, but this is required, or else how would you go ahead and migrate the app to a different environment and even have the test definition in the app itself? Perfect. So the test has been published, and here it tells me that the assertion actually failed, right? And it failed or it passed. It tells me it passed, but it actually failed. So, because this particular thing that I have written has come to pass, which is not correct. So I need to put it to fail. So it should be failed to, failed because email is incorrect. However, I want to test this in a positive way as well. So let's see what happens then. So again, play it, publish it. It takes time, and we will have to wait for a few seconds. Perfect. However, this time this was quick. So we have changed our assertion. So again, on test case start, we put in an input. We put in the right email, and this time, if you see, the assertion did not go ahead and give us a problem. So in this case, now let me just change it again to just be sure. And I can say play. If you see, I just changed it during the test case execution, and it tells me it's failing because of the incorrect error. Now, isn't this awesome? Now you can have your own test cases for your own screens, and you have your own test suites, which is actually awesome. However, when the test started, you might have seen that it tells you on test case start and on test case completed. So that being said, if I go back to my slides, we are not going to talk about application insights and performance testing. We leave it for another tutorial. Let's go back and talk about the test results. And that is what the test case start and test case end means, right? So each of the test cases have got infos. A test case has test info, test results, and test suite results. So both test case and test suite as a whole have results. So at this point, we can go ahead and log it. And how will we log it? We will log it using our conditions, or going ahead and customizing these properties. What happens on test case start? What happens on test case completed? And what happens on test suite completed. Let's say that you wanted to start on a particular screen. You can say that navigate to a particular screen and test that screen, in our case, main screen. What happens when a test case completes? In our case, if we put in a wrong email, it should fail, right? So what is the idea behind it? It should give you logging, and the logging that you got should be sent or should be stored somewhere. Now, the easiest way to go ahead and send the logs is perhaps using an email or patching the data to a SharePoint list. Let's start with the email option. Now, when I say the email option, you need to go ahead and add the connector out here and publish the app. Okay, publish the app, then go ahead and open your Test Studio and then write your test case, or else what really will happen, you'll not be able to go ahead and see the test case working or the connector in there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and use the Office 365 connector that I just spoke about. And I will use the send an email option, right? Send an email v2. To this, I'm going to give an email address. And after the email address, it tells me it needs a subject. So let me go ahead and put in a subject. And then finally, it needs a result. That means what I need to go ahead and put into the body. Now, what I can do is I can use the test case result dot, and pass all of this in and create a nice formatted email. But let's say that we will not do it right now. We'll do it later. Let's say that we just want to send it as a whole JSON object. So here I'll say JSON and I'll just say test case results because this is the test case result. And I'll format this. Let's say that I format it as indent4 and I will close this. So at this point, it should send an email when the test case passes or a test case fails. Right, so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and look at this. Perfect, it's there. I'm going to save it and I'll publish it as well. So, you can go ahead and determine how your test case actually goes ahead and starts. What happens when your test case has been completed and what really happens when your test suite has been completed. The same logic you can apply for test suite as well and test case. We are already going ahead and doing that. Again, one of the things you need to publish every change that you do. So please bear with me on this one. Perfect. So our test case has started running. So on test case start, I don't have anything. If you see that the input is wrong, so it should fail. And because it fails, it should send me an email, right? It tells me that the test case failed. And if this has worked correctly, hopefully we should have an email in our inbox. So let's see. So here, my friends, you see that there's an email in my inbox and it tells me exactly what really happened. In fact, it gives me more context on what assertion failed. This is what it failed on. And, the test case failed because the email address was incorrect. So I also get the context of what was incorrect out there. So, this is really, really awesome. Now, that being said, we can store the data exactly as you see in SharePoint, which will give you a better view of things. So I'll go back here. I'll go back to the view and I'm not going to waste a lot of time because that's going to be a simple patch function. Again, add the data source first in your Power Apps, publish it, come back here and then put it in. So let's say that I want to send an email and also patch to SharePoint. I'm going to patch it like this. It's a simple patch statement. I have got few columns out here and each of the columns I'm using the test case results. Perfect, right? So I'll go ahead and again publish it. In the meantime, we'll see our data source. I have got columns which are like this. And again, if I go back into my Power App, I have added this as a data source. Perfect. So our test case is, our test suite is again running, which indeed runs the test case. Again, a wrong assertion. So the assertion has failed. And if I go back out here and if I refresh my SharePoint, you see that it gives me a nice little update on what really happened. What happened with the assertion failed thing. It tells me that, the test failed at the step assert email with the following message. So here, my friends, this is all about Test Studio. In the next tutorial, we are going to talk about Test Engine. And Test Engine is a way to automate your Test Studio suites using an automated way. So before we move ahead, let's quickly look at the known limitations. So first and foremost, Test Studio is something that Microsoft is working upon. So it doesn't work currently with components, code components written in component framework. If you have nested galleries, media control, formula level errors, it's not something that you can validate. And it supports controls not listed in the select and set properties function. And then, the person type column is not supported. Test Studio is not compatible with experimental Git version control feature. In one of my previous tutorial, I spoke about Git version control. If you are going ahead and doing that, if you want to have multiple users edit the Power App at the same time, it's currently not possible to use Test Studio. That being said, that's all about Test Studio that you need to know. In the next tutorial, we'll talk about Test Engine and automate our test suites using it. I hope this tutorial was informative. Thank you for your time. Have a great day and bye-bye.